We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. That old law about an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. The time is always right to do the right thing. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual doom. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true. History will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. Capitalism does not permit an even flow of economic resources. With this system, a small privileged few are rich beyond conscience, and almost all others are doomed to be poor at some level. That's the way the system works. And since we know that the system will not change the rules, we are going to have to change the system. Everything that we see is a shadow cast by that which we do not see. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right. The first question which the priest and the Levite asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Good Samaritan reversed the question, if I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit together at the table of brotherhood. The quality, not the longevity, of one's life is what is important. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Never forget that everything Hitler did in Germany was legal. There can be no deep disappointment where there is not deep love. If we are to go forward, we must go back and rediscover those precious values, that all reality hinges on moral foundations, and that all reality has spiritual control. We must concentrate not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but the positive affirmation of peace. I submit that an individual who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust, and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice, is in reality expressing the highest respect for law. It is not enough to say we must not wage war. It is necessary to love peace and sacrifice for it. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. A right delayed is a right denied. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself. A lie cannot live. Nonviolence is a powerful and just weapon. which cuts without wounding and ennobles the man who wields it. It is a sword that heals. Discrimination is a hellhound that gnaws at Negroes in every waking moment of their lives to remind them that the lie of their inferiority is accepted as truth in the society dominating them. Rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There is an almost universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains some people more than having to think. Never succumb to the temptation of bitterness. I just want to do God's will, and He's allowed me to go to the mountain, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. We must build dikes of courage to hold back the flood of fear. Law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. I am not interested in power for power's sake, but I'm interested in power that is moral, that is right, and that is good. Wars are poor chisels for carving out peaceful tomorrows. There comes a time when people get tired of being pushed out of the glittering sunlight of life's July and left standing amid the piercing chill of an alpine November. Peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. One of the greatest casualties of the war in Vietnam is the Great Society, shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. I want to be the white man's brother, not his brother-in-law. Almost always, the creative, dedicated minority has made the world better. Any religion that professes to be concerned about the souls of men and is not concerned about the slums that damn them, the economic conditions that strangle them, and the social conditions that cripple them is a spiritually moribund religion awaiting burial. All progress is precarious, and the solution of one problem brings us face to face with another problem. Means we use must be as pure as the ends we seek. The principle of self-defense, even involving weapons and bloodshed, has never been condemned, even by Gandhi. Human salvation lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted. Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. And so we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. A man can't ride you unless your back is bent. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Seeing is not always believing. To other countries, I may go as a tourist, but to India, I come as a pilgrim. It may be true that the law cannot make a man love me, but it can keep him from lynching me, and I think that's pretty important. Nonviolence means avoiding not only external physical violence, but also internal violence of spirit. You not only refuse to shoot a man, but you refuse to hate him. The limitation of riots, moral questions aside, is that they cannot win, and their participants know it. Hence, rioting is not revolutionary but reactionary because it invites defeat. It involves an emotional catharsis, but it must be followed by a sense of futility. At the center of nonviolence stands the principle of love. Have we not come to such an impasse in the modern world that we must love our enemies? Or else, the chain reaction of evil, hate begetting hate, wars producing more wars, must be broken, or else we shall be plunged into the dark abyss of annihilation. If physical death is the price that I must pay to free my white brothers and sisters from a permanent death of the spirit, then nothing can be more redemptive. Every man lives in two realms, the internal and the external. The internal is that realm of spiritual ends expressed in art, literature, morals, and religion. The external is that complex of devices, techniques, mechanisms, and instrumentalities by means of which we live.